we told you guys that we really like Texas Tech in this matchup, and really exactly what I thought that was going to happen in this Texas matchup. At least how Texas Tech was able to win this game was, like I said, exactly how I thought. Texas Tech won this game 34-10. Now, in the first half, it was very sloppy football. We saw 5 turnovers in the first half, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and I forgot how the other turnover was in the first half. It might have been another interception as well. And going into this week, Barron Morton was one of the hottest quarterbacks in college football, and Barron Morton looked completely off for Texas Tech. Even before he got hurt, he just looked off. He had 2 interceptions. I believe he completely underthrew both of those balls, and I believe he was underthrowing balls all game. And Devin Dampier was pretty locked up for the entirety of this game as well. I never really believed in this Utah offense against a true opponent because I believe this Utah offense is extremely predictable. And I also did not realize how bad Devin Dampier's deep ball is. I knew Devin Dampier was not the quarterback that was able to stretch the field. And I told you guys in Utah's last 3 matchups, they were cupcake type matchups. I know they played at Power 4 in UCLA, but one of the worst Power 4 teams in the country. And they were able to play through Devin Dampier and this run game and just a couple of screen short passes. But let's be honest. When you're in the sport of college football and you're trying to be a true contender, like Utah was ranked 16 going into this matchup, you have to threaten every blade of grass on the field. You have to be able to stretch the field. And I did not believe Utah was going to be able to do this. Now, we saw one deep ball from Devin Dampier that didn't even look pretty, that scored a touchdown that got called back. I believe there was an ineligible man downfield. But other than that, there was a ton of opportunity for Devin Dampier on deep balls that he could just not connect with. And the difference between Devin Dampier and other college quarterbacks that are able to threaten every blade of grass on the field with how they could throw the football is Devin Dampier, when he throws a deep ball, it literally looks like he's putting his whole body into it. And that's why I just don't believe in this Utah team. I don't believe they could threaten a really good defense with a variety of different ways to win the football game. Like I said, they cannot do any passes outside of like 10, 15 yards. They cannot throw outside the hashes as well. Like, that's why I do not believe in this Utah team. Now, we got to get down to the thick of things because, again, Texas Tech dominated on the defensive side of the football, no doubt. And they were up when Barron Morton did get injured, and they could have rode out this game with their defense with a backup quarterback and Will Hammond coming in. But when we talk about Will Hammond, I am more impressed with this guy. This guy's performance, probably more than any performance this whole year in college football. Because when you talk about this Big 12 matchup against one of the biggest contenders in the Big 12 in Utah, and you have a lead for Texas Tech, your defense is flying. Texas Tech coaching staff really could have just said to Will Hammond, a backup quarterback, protect the football, and we have a great shot at winning this game. But they did not do that. Will Hammond was absolutely flawless in this matchup. He was 13 for 16, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns he dropped in the absolute bucket. He also ran, I believe, pretty strategically with 8 carries for 61 yards as well. Even his 3 misses were like pretty much perfect passes as well. There was one miss that he dropped in the bucket and they went right back to it and connected again. I believe for Texas Tech, this was the best thing that could have happened to them because I don't believe Barron Morton is really injured long term. And I'm not 100% sure if Texas Tech would have won this game if Will Hammond didn't come in. Will Hammond, who I wasn't really familiar with, he was a 4-star recruit and he threw for the most yards in Texas high school his senior year that year. So again, this was a guy with talent, but this was a guy that came in unfazed. And it really seemed like Texas Tech offense opened up once he came in this game. Because like I said, Barron Morton just did not have it. It's going to be very interesting to see, as we were talking about with QB controversies, if they, go with Will Hammond in the next game. I'm not sure. Again, I think it really depends if Barron Morton is 100% because Barron Morton was a guy that was hyped going into this game. He was a guy that was guaranteed to be Texas Tech starter quarterback this season pretty much. So again, I think this was a huge win for Texas Tech. I think Will Hammond stepped up, and I know Texas Tech really feels like they have something in Will Hammond now, as he is a freshman for the future. But if Barrett Morton is healthy, I do expect them to stick with Barrett Morton. I don't think there's going to be a QB controversy, but I think Will Hammond stepped up for Texas Tech in one of his biggest games. And another thing I want to go over with the Will Hammond thing as well, that I personally didn't know, they said on the broadcast, is that Will Hammond has a lot of reps with the one because Barrett Morton was out for significant time this offseason. So that proves how he had much chemistry with them. And it really seemed like that throughout the game. Utah, I have significant question marks with. Again, this was a big loss for them. They were a team that's a possibility to get into the back end of the college football playoffs. But I have true question marks against contenders in the Big 12 and outside the Big 12. Are they going to be able to beat anybody? Because, again, like I said, if you have a solid defensive line like Texas Tech has, they are a pretty predictable offense to shut down. Again, you don't have to play very deep for them. You're going off of 5, 10 yard screens and runs. It is very predictable. And when you have no threat in the deep play game, I don't know if Utah could get past, major opponents. I think they're a team that could definitely beat who they are supposed to beat because they do have a solid game plan for those teams when you come to running the football and playing defense. But against true threats like Texas Tech, I think they could run into problems. Now, Texas Tech, again, I didn't look at the AP poll, but they're a team that could definitely be a top 10 team this season. They look phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. And on offense, this team could put up points just like last year. And we said that going into Texas Tech's preview in the offseason. If they could shore up their defense, there is no doubt this team is able to put up points. Like they put up arguably top 3 points in the Big 12 last year. So again, they really just need to shore up their defense. Their defensive line looks phenomenal. They look phenomenal in the trenches. Will Hammond, what a game from him. I'm not sure if Texas Tech pulls this out without him. Again, it wasn't Barrett Morton's day, but I don't expect a QB controversy. But one of the best performances I've